A young boy comes home from school carrying a newborn baby in his arms, telling his mother it's his new little brother. But the truth behind that innocent gesture was far more terrifying than the mother could have ever imagined. What would you do if your child came home from school with an unknown baby in their arms, claiming it was their new sibling? How would you react? Well, this is the situation a young mother had to face. The sun had risen earlier that summer morning, spreading its golden rays across the city as it slowly began to wake. The morning light seeped through the small cracks in the curtains of Anna's room, casting bright patterns on the walls. The alarm rang, and Anna, still drowsy, lazily stretched before getting out of bed. As she left the comfort of her sheets, she felt the soft, warm glow of the sun on her face, announcing a promising day ahead. Just another day, Anna murmured to herself, slipping into her slippers and heading to the bathroom. Anna went about her usual morning routine. After getting ready, she made her way downstairs to the kitchen and began preparing breakfast with a familiar ease. The smell of freshly brewed coffee and toasted bread filled the house, creating a cozy, inviting atmosphere. With breakfast ready, Anna went upstairs, passing by framed family photos hung on the walls The walls were lined with happy family memories as Anna walked to her son Carlino's room. "Son, it's time to wake up," she said gently as she entered. The boy stirred, rubbing his sleepy eyes, but soon smiled, remembering it was the last day of school. "Good morning, Mom," Carlino said, stretching and yawning. The 8-year-old got out of bed and began getting ready, pulling on the uniform that was already laid out on his dresser. As Anna brushed his messy hair, she said, "It's finally the last day of school, right? Tomorrow you'll be on vacation. Your dad will be back, and we'll all head to Grandma and Grandpa's beach house. Are you excited?" she asked, trying to contain her own excitement and longing for a break. Rodrigo, her husband, was away on one of his many work trips as a diplomat. His travels were often long and frequent, leaving Anna and Carlino missing him, though they stayed in touch daily despite the distance. "I can't wait, Mom. It's going to be so much fun," Carlino replied, his eyes sparkling with joy. They headed downstairs and had breakfast together while Carlino excitedly talked about the upcoming vacation, his friends, and what he hoped to do at his grandparents' house. "Do you think Grandpa will take me fishing again?" he asked with a mischievous grin, his mouth full of cereal. Anna smiled and replied, "I'm sure he will." "My dear, you know how much he loves spending time with you," Anna said, taking a sip of her coffee. Despite Rodrigo's absence, she found comfort in her daily routine with Carlino and her work from home as a book editor. The morning had started on a lively note, as it was the last day of school. After breakfast, Anna walked Carlino to the curb in front of their house, where they waited for the school bus to arrive in a few minutes. "Mom, can I bring my new book to the beach? I also want to take my drawing kit to sketch the ocean," he asked excitedly as they waited. "Of course, son. You can bring anything you want," Anna replied with a smile. When the bus arrived, Anna gave her son a tight hug. "Have a great day at school, my love," she said. "Goodbye, Mom," Carlino replied happily as he hopped onto the bus. Anna waved to the driver and watched the vehicle drive away, feeling a mix of pride and nostalgia. She returned inside, ready to tackle another day of work, but as she entered the now quiet and empty house, Anna was overwhelmed by old, painful memories. The truth was that Anna, Rodrigo, and Carlino were a small, happy family, bound together by love and affection. Yet beneath all that happiness, there was a deep sadness that had settled in their hearts. Just over a year ago, they had experienced a painful loss that, though rare, never mentioned again, yet it lingered silently over them, a constant reminder that even in moments of happiness, the pain still remained. What had happened a little over a year ago had changed Anna's life forever. At the time, everything seemed perfect. Anna had found out she was pregnant with their second child and couldn't have been happier. Rodrigo, always the devoted partner, organized a small celebration with close family and friends. The house was filled with laughter and joy as everyone celebrated the news. "Isn't it wonderful, my love? Our family is growing," Rodrigo said affectionately. Carlino was just as excited and couldn't wait to finally have a little sibling to play with. "I'll teach him everything, Mum. We'll play together all the time," Carlino beamed. However, early in the pregnancy, complications arose. Anna was 37 and suffered from hypertension, making it a high-risk pregnancy. Rodrigo stood by her side throughout, taking time off from work to focus entirely on his family and care for his wife. They attended every medical appointment together and did everything possible to ensure the baby would be born strong and healthy. "We'll get through this together, darling. I'm here with you," Rodrigo would say, holding her hand at each checkup. But on one fateful day, during her 6th month of pregnancy, Anna suddenly felt unwell and experienced intense pain. Rodrigo rushed Anna to the hospital, but unfortunately it was too late. They lost the baby. The first few months after the loss were the hardest. Anna could barely get out of bed, consumed by grief. The nights were especially tough, and she often cried silently, lost in thoughts of the child she never got to hold. "Why, Lord? Why my child?" she would ask, though no answer ever came. Rodrigo, on the other hand, threw himself into his work in an attempt to forget his pain. He believed that keeping his mind busy would ease the hurt, but this only distanced him further from his family, creating a silent gap between them. It was Carlino who brought them back together. After some months, Anna and Rodrigo realized that, in their deep focus on their own sorrow, they had neglected Carlino. Their son was also struggling with his own grief, and the lack of support and comfort from his parents was affecting him in many ways. Although Carlino didn't fully understand what had happened, he knew he had lost his baby brother. His change in behavior, from a cheerful, outgoing child to a sad and anxious one, was a wake-up call for Anna and Rodrigo. They decided they would face their pain together as a family. Anna chose to work from home so she could be more present for her son, while Rodrigo, though continuing to work during a virtual meeting, Anna took a break for lunch and made a video call to Rodrigo. He was set to arrive the next day, and they went over his flight schedule and discussed their planned beach trip. Rodrigo's voice, even from afar, provided a familiar comfort that made Anna feel less alone. "My flight lands at 10 a.m. and I'll take a taxi straight home, so I should be there around 11, Rodrigo said with a smile. "Perfect, love. Carlino is so excited to see you. He hasn't stopped talking about the trip," Anna replied, feeling a pang of joy at the thought of their family reunion. The hours flew by as Anna refocused on her work. Carlino attended a full-day school where he spent his mornings learning third-grade subjects and his afternoons involved in extracurricular activities like sports, music, and games. The school wasn't far away, and since Carlino traveled by van, Anna had plenty of time to dedicate to her job during the day. She usually wrapped up her work by 4 p.m. so she could welcome her son home and spend the rest of the day with him. However, that day, around 3 p.m., the doorbell rang. "How strange. I'm not expecting anyone," she thought. Leaving her small office, she went to open the door, but what she saw left her frozen in shock. There was Carlino, his backpack on, holding a newborn baby, still covered in blood. "Look, Mom, my new little brother," Carlino said with an innocent smile. Anna let out a scream, her heart racing at the terrifying sight in front of her. Quickly, she pulled herself together, ushered Carlino and the baby inside, and shut the door behind them. But what on earth was happening? Who was this baby, and how did Carlino find him? To better understand this strange turn of events, we need to go back a bit. That morning, on the last day of school, Carlino arrived filled with excitement. Since it was the final day, the school had organized a series of fun events for the children, And without regular classes, the activities were scheduled to end earlier than usual. A few days before, the school had sent a note informing parents about the change in pickup time. However, Carlino forgot to give this note to his mother, so Anna had no idea she needed to pick him up earlier. After a day full of games and fun, it was time for the parents to collect their children from school. When Carlino realized that he had been waiting for a while and remembered he never told his mother about the schedule change, he decided to make his way home on foot. The school wasn't too far. It would take about 20 minutes to walk back. Although it was quite a distance for an 8-year-old to walk alone, Carlino saw it as an adventure. An adventure unaware of how that bold decision would intersect with another story unfolding in secret in one of the city's dark alleys. But the universe seemed to have already orchestrated a major change for that family, and for the life of a young woman named Johanna. Johanna was a 21-year-old whose life had always been shaped by fear and uncertainty. She grew up in a home full of conflict, where her father often displayed uncontrollable anger and her mother was barely present. The only source of comfort in Johanna's life had been Mateus, her boyfriend of 2 years. However, when Johanna discovered she was pregnant, Mateus ended the relationship, leaving her abandoned and alone. She knew her father would never accept her becoming a single mother, as it would bring shame to the family. When he found out about the pregnancy, he flew into a rage, threatening her and demanding that she get rid of the baby. But Johanna stood her ground, determined to keep her child. She began to plan her escape. The young woman found a job and started saving every penny she could to start a new life in another city. Months passed, filled with uncertainty and constant threats. But Johanna was resolute in her decision to protect her child and give him a life full of love and care, the kind of life she never had. As her due date approached, Johanna decided to put her plan into action and escape. The time had come. Her plan was to flee a few weeks before her due date so she could give birth to her child in a new city. However, on the day of her planned escape, everything went wrong. Johanna felt a sharp pain and went into labor earlier than expected. Fearing for her baby's life and knowing her father would try to get rid of the child, Johanna grabbed her few belongings and ran toward the nearest hospital. But as she hurried, the pain of the contractions intensified, and she could no longer continue. She took refuge in a dark alley, where she began to give birth all alone. Meanwhile, Carlino was making his way home, happily skipping along. He was excited about the upcoming trip to the beach and the return of his father the next day. As he passed by the alley, he suddenly heard cries of pain. His curiosity piqued. Carlino paused and looked around. At first, he hesitated, but something compelled him to check what was happening. At the far end of the alley, he found Johanna, drenched in sweat and cradling a newborn baby in her arms. She was trembling from pain and fear. Carlino, his eyes wide in shock, didn't fully understand the situation, but he knew something was very wrong. "Do you need help, miss?" he asked in a trembling voice. Johanna, now exhausted and weak, looked at the boy. She knew she was dying and that her child would be left alone if no one helped him. With the last of her strength, she held out the baby toward Carlino, her arms shaking. "Please take my child with you. Take care of him," Johanna whispered faintly. Unsure of what else to do, Carlino gently took the newborn into his arms. The baby, still covered in blood, was crying. Carlino knew he had to bring the baby to safety, so he ran home as fast as he could. The last thing Johanna saw before she closed her eyes for the final time was the image of the boy running away with her child, saving him from the fate she feared. With the child she would never see grow, a tear rolled down Johanna's cold cheeks as she took her final breath. When Carlino finally made it home, Anna was horrified to see her son holding a blood-covered newborn. After the initial shock, she quickly rushed to help. Carlino, still breathless, explained what had happened. "Mum, "There was a lady in the alley. She gave me the baby and asked me to take care of him," he said, still not fully grasping the enormity of what he had just witnessed. Anna, still in shock, took the baby and tried to calm him down. After making sure the child was okay, she called the police and explained the situation. The authorities arrived swiftly and went to the alley where they found Johanna lifeless. While the police investigated the scene, Anna couldn't stop thinking about the young woman's final request, to take care of her child. She knew that Johanna had made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure her baby's safety. With a heavy heart, Anna made a decision. She looked down at the baby, now peacefully sleeping in her arms, and made a promise to herself to honor Johanna's last wish. "We'll keep him. What do you think, Carlino?" Anna asked, gently stroking the baby's head. Rodrigo returned home the next day, and after the initial shock, he agreed with Anna's decision. The trip to the beach was postponed, and the couple spent a long time discussing the new situation they now faced. Determined to give the baby a safe and loving life, Anna said, this is what she wanted. Rodrigo, she gave her life so that he could have a chance. We can't ignore that. Her eyes filled with tears, Rodrigo embraced his wife and son, feeling the weight of the responsibility they now carried. "This is our second chance to start over," he said, remembering the child they had lost. The family went through a legal process to adopt the child, navigating various challenges and bureaucracies, but ultimately being rewarded. Johanna's tragic end brought a new light to Anna, Rodrigo, and Carlino's lives. The baby, named Lucas, after the son they had lost, was welcomed into the family with love and affection, somewhat filling the void still present in their hearts. Anna often found herself looking at Lucas with a mix of sadness and gratitude. She knew the journey ahead would be long and challenging, but she was determined to do whatever was necessary to honor Johanna's sacrifice and ensure Lucas grew up in a loving and secure home. Johanna would not be forgotten. The couple held a small funeral to honor her memory. As Lucas grew, Anna and Rodrigo shared stories about his mother's bravery and the tremendous sacrifice she made out of love for him. In this way, the small family found new hope and a renewed reason to move forward, united by the love and memory of a young mother who gave everything to protect her child. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to check out the next video on your screen. It will also touch your heart. Don't forget to like and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. A big hug and see you next time.